There are many evidences for the existence of God, but the one I want to talk about today is that of causality. What caused what we see? From where did the universe come? It had to have come from somewhere, because things don't just pop into existence all by themselves. Something made it come into existence. Other things make things come into existence, right? My claim is that science gives us no evidence of anything that doesn't exist being able to pop itself into existence. That's not even sensible, let alone possible or plausible. If something has a beginning, it has a cause outside of itself. Something had to have existed before it. Scientists are always on the hunt for the beginning. They use mathematics to extrapolate back to the beginning. From what they see in the universe, the evidence tells them that before the Big Bang, there existed only an infinitesimally small point consisting of no matter and no dimension, where the laws of physics and nature as we know them didn't exist and were not in operation. But if that's the case, then I'm contending that a powerful, eternal, personal being that is not part of nature is a logical candidate to have caused it all. Ilm al-Kalam proposed that unless there was a beginning, there couldn't be a present. Think of it this way. Suppose you go into a grocery store and you go up to the deli counter and you're going to take a ticket so that you can have your proper turn. But on the ticket dispenser it says a sign. Before taking this ticket, you must take a ticket from the machine on the right. And so you reach for that machine, but it also has a similar sign on it. And the third machine has the same sign, and the fourth. And this could go on forever, which is Kalam's point, unless you finally get to a machine somewhere in the line that allows you to take a ticket. So unless there's a beginning, there can be no present. Now, Kalam's case could also be stated mathematically. He would say, instead of starting counting at 1, let's start at the first number after 0. Well, you can't start at 0.9 because there's a 0.8 and a 0.7, etc. And you can't start at 0.1 because there's a 0.99 and a 0.999 and a 0.9999. In other words, if we have to consider an infinite quantity of previous numbers, we can't even start to count. That's Kalam's argument. And here's what it looks like. Number one, everything that begins to exist has a cause. Number two, the universe began to exist. Number three, therefore, the universe has a cause. What he is arguing is that somewhere there has to be a first cause, something or someone that was always there that kicked the whole thing into gear to cause everything else. Nothing can create itself out of nothing. There has to be something that always existed. Now, science tells us it wasn't anything in nature. So I think God is a more reasonable possibility than nature as the first cause, and more reasonable than any other explanation I've heard. So let me give you some of the arguments against. Somebody might argue, well, why couldn't the Big Bang just have happened with no cause? Maybe it just happened. Now, the problem with this approach is that science knows of no such possibility. Nothing happens without an external cause. Even biological things came from other biological things, or at least from something that already existed. To think that the universe spontaneously generated itself out of nothing flies in the face of logic and science. Something had to have existed before the Big Bang to cause the Big Bang to happen. Some might argue, second argument, the universe is endless and uncaused. But according to Kalam's logic, this is impossible. And according to what scientists tell us, the universe is not endless. We now have fairly strong scientific and mathematical evidence that the universe is not endless and uncaused, but it did have an absolute beginning about 13.7 billion years ago. In 2003, cosmologists Arvind Borde, Alan Guth, and Alexander Vilenkin were able to prove that since the universe is in a state of cosmic expansion, it cannot be eternal in the past, but must have had an absolute beginning. According to Vilenkin, quote, cosmologists can no longer hide behind the possibility of a past eternal universe. There is no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning, close quote. It reasonably follows, then, that there must have been a transcendent cause that brought the universe into being. Argument number 3. Well, maybe a quantum event of unknown character and means triggered the Big Bang. This is what's called a God of the gaps argument. It's purely speculative. There is no substance to support it. There's no evidence to support it. In case you haven't heard of that, a God of the gaps argument is where you have no evidence, but you say, well, it just happened that way, and eventually we'll figure out. That's no argument. In addition, it still presumes the effects of scientific forces in an environment where there were no scientific forces. A fourth argument. If an infinite universe is logically impossible, how can an infinite God be logically possible? Well, at the bottom line, something has to be eternal. Something has to have always been for there to be a first cause. And either it was material or non-material, and since both science and logic give us strong evidence that it was not material, we're left with a non-material cause that is eternal. A fifth argument. I don't think it being outside of nature proves anything about it being divine. Okay, well, my assertion is this. Since nothing material existed as far as we know, that seems to point to a non-material cause. And since time didn't exist, that seems to point to a timeless cause. And since it would take power to create the Big Bang, it seems to point to a powerful cause. And since impersonal causes must have first causes, and only personal causes are capable of being first causes, then that points us to a personal cause. What we're left with is a non-material, timeless, powerful personal cause. That points us to God. So what caused the universe to exist? It has to have had a cause, because it had a beginning. If the causal mechanism of the universe was not a thing, meaning it was not matter, as science tells us it wasn't matter, and therefore it was not scientific, meaning physics, chemistry, biology, then we're left with wondering if the causal mechanism was a metaphysical being with the capability to motivate the beginning of the universe, the Big Bang, if you like. We've come down to a logical conclusion that the cause of the universe was non-material, timeless, powerful, and personal. God is the most reasonable choice as to the source of all that exists. If you think not, then you have to argue for a non-material, timeless, powerful, and personal cause that is not God. And that burden's on you. And I'd like to talk about it. Now, this is only one of many arguments for the existence of God, but let's talk about this one. I'll get to the other ones in subsequent videos. Let's talk about this.